At the funeral, my daughter's smirk hid her disbelief, but when the will was revealed, she discovered a truth that shattered her world. Jenna stood at the back of the small church, her arms crossed tightly, fighting an internal storm of emotions. The wooden pews were filled with townsfolk's soft weeping and whispers, love and admiration pouring out for her father, Charlie. For years, he had been a fixture in this small Midwestern town, and yet, to her, he had always felt like a distant shadow. As she glanced around, her heart tightened with both anger and yearning. Her carefree demeanor was merely a facade, one that faltered as she watched the crowd wipe tears away and share stories of a man she hardly knew. Each word wrapped around him like a warm blanket, while she stood alone, an outsider. Charlie's absence had always left her feeling like a second choice in a life he had built for others. It twisted inside her as she thought of the inheritance she had bitterly wished for, though she knew it would never be more than a fleeting thought. The service dragged on, punctuated by hopeful hymns and nostalgic tales that seemed so foreign to her. She could almost feel the whispered judgments of the townsfolk. Who was this girl, smirking at the memorial of a father who had never truly claimed her? The weight of her father's abandonment pressed on her chest, but a flicker of rebellion ignited within her. Who were they to judge her? They didn't know what he had put her through, the empty birthday cards and Christmases spent alone. As the pastor wrapped up, the lawyer stood, adjusting his glasses nervously. Jenna's pulse quickened. It was finally time to hear exactly what Charlie had left behind. Charlie has decided to leave everything to the community center, the lawyer read, words tumbling out like stones. A place where he dedicated his life to serving single parents, veterans, and those who needed a hand. The weight of the world crashed around Jenna as the crowd erupted in applause, their clapping echoing cruelly in her ears. She bolted from the church, heart racing, laughter bubbling up like boiling water. Anger flared, twisting into rage as she stepped outside into the crisp air. This wasn't about her, it was about the legacy he left behind for these strangers who applauded him. Did they mean more to him than his own flesh and blood? Jenna felt the very earth shift beneath her feet as bitter betrayal coursed through her veins. They could love him, but they would never be her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The deeper she pushed into the community center, the more her walls began to close in. Anger dissipated to confusion as she stumbled upon a box tucked away in a forgotten corner. Dust swirled like ghosts around old letters, each revealing heartfelt stories from people whose lives her father had touched. Her heart hammered in her chest as she read each note, each a thread in the fabric of Charlie's life, a man she mourned but had never truly known. The last letter held a truth that could change everything. As she clutched it tightly, a familiar face walked through the door with eyes full of resolve. It was someone who would unravel everything she thought she understood about her father and herself. Jenna felt a chill as she turned, the letter still clenched in her hand. The figure in the doorway was familiar, yet foreign. It was Liz, a childhood friend of her father. They hadn't crossed paths in years, but the twinge of recognition hung in the air thick like fog. Liz's eyes weren't filled with sympathy, instead, they sparkled with an intensity that suggested she carried secrets ready to spill. Jenna, Liz started, her voice steady yet soft. I need to speak with you. Jenna's heart raced. She had seen Liz around town, often leading community workshops, her father's right hand in many initiatives. But now, standing face to face, the tension was unmistakable. What do you want? Jenna spat, letting her anger crack like thunder. I know today must have been a shock for you. It was for all of us, Liz said. But there's more than what you saw in that will. Jenna's grip on the letter tightened. More? You mean the part where he left everything for the town over his own daughter? She could feel the heat rising in her voice, like a flame threatening to consume her. I know it seems that way, Liz replied, stepping closer, her expression sincere. But your father cared for you deeply. I swear he did. He had a complicated way of showing it. Complicated. That word kicked like a dagger in Jenna's gut. She shoved her feelings down. She didn't want to keep being reminded of Charlie's failings. What could possibly justify this? She demanded, gesturing to the community center around them. What could make me feel less like an afterthought? Liz took a deep breath. He spoke about you all the time, Jenna. You were his pride. But circumstances changed between you two. He was hurt by some things that happened. He wanted to protect you, to give back to the community he loved so much, but it came at a price. Jenna's eyes narrowed. Protect me? You think leaving me nothing while everyone else gets to applaud his greatness is protection? Listen. Liz said, her tone firm yet gentle. You need to read that letter. There's more inside than just words. It holds a truth that might change how you see him. With a mix of skepticism and curiosity, Jenna unfolded the crinkled piece of paper. Her heart raced faster with each word she read. It was like a puzzle piece and a knife at the same time. A mix of fear and hope bubbled within her. The deeper she read, the more she could hear Charlie's voice laced between the lines. I've left the center my entire estate, Jenna murmured as she scanned a part of the letter again. But I don't understand why. Because he wanted you to know what it meant to truly help others, Liz interjected, her voice passionate. He believed in service, that loving more than one's self was worth the sacrifice. But he hoped you would come to terms with it while understanding that love takes many forms. Jenna's mind swirled. Could it be that her father was reaching out even in death? Could all her bitterness be misguided anger built on walls? Her heart ached with confusion. As she looked up, ready to fire a response, Liz had a look in her eyes that stopped her. Sometimes you need to listen, not just to the words but to the silence in between. There's a reason I'm here now. Suddenly, everything around Jenna grew quiet, the bustling community center pausing in solemn anticipation. What do you mean? Jenna's voice wavered, tinged with fear and an odd sense of curiosity. You've got to find out the truth that Charlie left behind, and it starts here. As Jenna felt the ground shift once more beneath her, she realized she had a choice: cling to her anger, or dive into the unknown truths of a father she barely knew. What revelations awaited her lurking in the silence of his past? A chill crept along her spine as she whispered, "What are you trying to say, Liz? What else is there?" Jenna wore her confusion like a heavy coat as she gazed at Liz. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, pushing her to confront feelings she had buried for years. The community center hummed with hushed voices, yet Jenna felt suffocated by the silence that enveloped her and Liz. What truth? She pressed, her voice barely above a whisper. Liz hesitated, and Jenna could see the battle of emotions playing out in her eyes. Your father kept things from you. Things he never wanted to talk about. It wasn't just about his love for the town. It was about the decisions he made, the sacrifices he chose. The sacrifices he chose? Jenna echoed. The words tasted bitter, tangled with years of resentment and hurt. Yes, Liz said, taking another step closer, her hand gently resting on Jenna's arm. He had a past, a world where he was lost before he found his purpose here. That world isn't just gone, it shaped who he became. The will was part of his final act, but it's not the only piece of him left behind. Questions swirled like leaves in a storm. So what? He thought throwing me a piece of paper would make it all okay? That I should just accept it? Liz sighed. You need the whole story, Jenna. There's more to it, definitely more. I found something shortly after he passed away. Something he wanted me to give you, but I feared you wouldn't be ready to take it. Ready for what? More pain? Jenna snapped, anger igniting as it wrapped around her like a familiar cloak. No, not pain. A chance for understanding. For connection. No more questions left hanging. Liz released her grip, and Jenna felt a sudden void where warmth had been. What do you mean? Jenna asked, her curiosity now battling with disdain. Behind that door, Liz nodded towards a side room at the center. Hold something that might help you find the closure you're looking for. Your father's journal, it's all there. His thoughts, his struggles, the choices that made him who he was. Jenna hesitated. Delving into Charlie's past felt like standing on a cliff, teetering at the edge. You expect me to walk in there and what? Just forgive him? Accept everything? Liz's gaze softened, understanding flickering in her eyes. No. It's not about forgiveness alone. It's about realizing he was human, flawed, just like all of us. He fought his battles, Jenna. The question is, are you willing to learn from them? Every part of her body screamed to refuse, to walk away from the door that seemed to taunt her, just out of reach. Yet a tiny flicker of hope ignited within the potential for understanding, for clarity. After a moment of silence, Jenna found her voice. And if the truth is worse than I imagined? Then you will face it head on, and it will lead you to your own truth, Liz replied, her tone unwavering. Jenna's heart thudded in her chest. What if I'm not ready for that? Liz took a deep breath before she spoke. It's okay to be scared. But real courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about stepping forward in spite of it. The air crackled with tension, a moment caught between possibilities. Jenna stood at a crossroads, enveloped by uncertainty and the prospect of hidden answers. Would she take that step toward the truth, however painful? As she approached the door, Liz's voice cut through the silence. Remember, Jenna, love isn't simple. It isn't just about what's given, it's also about what's missed, what's lost. You may not have the answers now, but this could be your first step toward finding them. With her hand resting on the handle, Jenna hesitated just once more, her heart racing. What if I don't like what I find? Then you take that next leap anyway, Liz encouraged. With a deep breath, Jenna twisted the doorknob, commitment mingling with dread. As the door creaked open, she wondered what pieces of her father remained hidden in the shadows. What stories were waiting to be uncovered, and would they finally bring her closer to the dad she longed to know? Then she paused, fingertips brushing against the threshold as a new question emerged. What if finding the answers opens up a truth that changes everything she thought she knew about herself? Jenna stepped inside, her heart pounding louder than ever against the silence of the room. It smelled faintly of cedar and old paper, an earthy, grounding scent that felt oddly comforting in this moment of turmoil. The dim light cast shadows on the walls, stretching them into strange shapes that danced as if echoing her confusion. The journals lay in a neat stack atop a small wooden table, each one leather-bound and embossed with her father's initials. Their presence felt monumental, heavier than the weight of history they held. Taking a shaky breath, she advanced, the creaking floorboards beneath her feet amplifying the quiet. She had spent so long resenting her father for his silence, and here was the promise of his voice. She picked up the top journal, and a wave of nostalgia hit her. Charlie's handwriting, she recognized it instantly. It was the same slanted, precise script that had filled her childhood birthday cards, each word like a tender whisper of love. With trembling fingers, Jenna opened it. The pages were yellowing, the ink slightly faded but legible. The first entry was dated long before she was born. It felt like an intrusion, reading his intimate thoughts. It wasn't like flipping through an old photo album. There were no smiles, no celebrations, just raw, candid emotions that laid bare the man she barely knew. Day 1, it read. I'm tired of running. Tired of pretending I have it all figured out. Sometimes, I feel like I'm losing myself. Jenna's breath caught. He felt lost, just like she did. Lost in the midst of expectations, choices, and life unfolding in ways they never planned. She moved to the next entry. They grew more personal as time went on. The more she read, the more the pieces began to fit together. Charlie spoke of his love for the town, of the people he wanted to protect, and his aspirations that were marred by choices that bound him tighter than any chains. There were mentions of regrets, battles with self-doubt, and the yearning for approval he never fully achieved. As tears began to form in her eyes, she realized he wasn't just telling a story about his life. He was inviting her into it. The anger that had consumed her slowly dissolved, replaced by something softer, a fragile understanding that her father had faced demons she could now see reflected in her own struggles. With every word, Jenna felt layers of her past strip away, revealing the uncertainty that lay beneath the same uncertainty that had shadowed her own life choices. What if she could learn from him? What if his mistakes didn't have to repeat in her life? She flipped through to a later entry, and the tone shifted, becoming even more intense. I love Jenna more than anything, he wrote. But I fear I've let her down. I fear she doesn't see the entirety of who I am and the battles I fought in silence. I must find a way to bridge this gap before it's too late. The words pierced through her, the weight of love crashing into the vast emptiness left by his absence. The realization hit her hard. He hadn't chosen silence. He had chosen to shield her from his burdens, hoping to spare her the same pains he carried. In that moment, Jenna understood the depth of his sacrifices, but as she wrestled with her emotions, a darker thought crept in. Was this newfound connection merely an illusion? Could she trust what he had written, or was it just another way for him to conceal the truth? Struggling with the mix of grief and newfound understanding, Jenna knew she had to keep reading. There were more pages left, more layers to uncover. The thought of discovering the truth, good or bad, became an insatiable need that pulled her deeper into the journal's pages. What other revelations waited hidden within those lines? Could they answer the questions that lingered like ghosts in her mind? It was time to confront her father's past fully and face whatever awaited her on the other side. Jenna gently closed the journal, the next entry beckoning her. What would she discover next? And more importantly, could she hold on to the love that had seemingly slipped through her fingers all these years? Jenna opened the next journal, her hands trembling slightly. The air felt thicker now. What could he possibly have left unsaid? She took a deep breath and read the date at the top of the next page. 6 months before he passed away. The writing was different, more frantic, as if he were racing against time. I can't keep hiding, it began. Every day is a struggle, and I feel the weight of so many unspoken words. Her heart sank as she read the pain in his confession. His voice, though distant, was so real. He spoke of looking around at his life and realizing how far he had drifted from the person he wanted to be. I'm afraid I'm running out of time, Charlie had written. I've made choices, wrong ones, and now my greatest regret is not talking to Jenna. I want to share everything, but I don't know how. Jenna felt each word sink into her gut. The love. The fear. It all felt like a spiral, pulling her deeper into her father's psyche. More entries followed, detailing his not-so-great days, the endless cycle of doubt and the shadows that loomed over him like black clouds. He wrote about the little things that brought him joy, too, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, the laughter of children playing in the street. There was a longing in those words, a yearning for connection and understanding. I've learned that happiness can be fleeting, but it's worth every moment, he noted, a flicker of hope breaking through the darkness. Jenna wiped away tears as she realized how much he had struggled, yet still found the beauty in everyday life. It was almost unbearable to think of her father in such pain, grappling with demons she had never known existed. But now, with each page, she felt closer to him, and yet more isolated. Did he ever think of her when he felt lost? Did he ever wish he had reached out? Jenna, my darling, another entry began. If you ever read this, know that you are my light. I've tried to do what's best for you, but I fear that I failed. I hope you find strength in this life. You're capable of so much more than I ever was. The ache in her chest intensified, the words swirled like a storm. There was so much love between the lines, and yet, so much regret. She wished he hadn't felt so alone, that he could have shared his struggles rather than carry this weight alone. With a shaky hand, Jenna flipped to the last part of the journal, each turn of the page heavier than the last. I am ready to face the truth, Jenna. I've come to realize that nothing lasts forever, not joy, not pain. The bonds we form can break, but they can also heal. Promise me you'll keep searching for what makes you feel alive, and never forget the love we shared. It's in that love where you find your strength. Jenna stopped. The finality of his words hit her like a freight train. He was gone. Just like that. The tears fell freely now, and she felt a mix of sorrow and gratitude. There was grace in what he had written, a fragile piece, and yet she felt an emptiness that couldn't be filled. The journal slipped from her fingers, and she let it fall onto the table. She sat back, the room still quiet, but now it resonated with the echoes of a love that transcended even death. But there were still questions lingering in her heart, unanswered. Did he leave anything else for her? A letter? More journals? Jenna's mind raced with possibilities. What else had he wanted to share? Just then, something on the shelf caught her eye, an envelope tucked away behind the journals, stamped and addressed to her. Jenna's pulse quickened. What secrets lay hidden in that envelope? She reached for it, her fingers quivering with anticipation and fear as she pulled it from its resting place. As she opened it, her heart raced. What had Charlie left her? Would this be the final piece that completed the puzzle of their fractured relationship? Jenna's fingers trembled as she tore open the envelope, the paper crinkling in her grasp. Inside, there was a single sheet of lined paper, folded neatly. As she unfolded it, her breath caught in her throat. The handwriting was unmistakable, it was Charlie's jagged script, but the words felt charged with urgency, as if each one was a lingering whisper directly from his soul. Jenna, it began, if you're reading this, it means I've finally lost my battle, and I need you to know one last thing. She gasped, the air feeling cold around her. The gravity of what she was holding made her chest tighten. What else could he possibly need to tell her? She felt a swell of emotion rise within her, fear, sadness, a desperate hope that maybe this letter would be different. I've spent so much time battling my own demons, trapped between the shadows of my choices and the light I see in you. I want to set the record straight because you deserve nothing less than the truth. Jenna's heart thudded louder now. The truth. What truth? Did he mean the choices he mentioned before? The regrets? She leaned in closer, the faint scent of the ink swirling memories of her father's presence around her. I've kept secrets, he continued, secrets that have haunted me. But I've come to realize that silence never truly protects anyone. You deserve to know my past, you deserve to understand me. I should have had the courage to share these stories with you when I was alive. Jenna held her breath as the words sank in. He had secrets. The thought both terrified and intrigued her. What could possibly linger in the past that had prevented him from being open? Please forgive me, he wrote, for not being the father you needed me to be. I allowed my pride and fear to drive a wedge between us. I hurt you, even if it was unintentional. My hope is that by sharing this, you'll find some peace. Know you are more than my daughter, you are my heartbeat. Love is the only thing that matters in the end. Tears streamed down her face, but a new feeling surged within her. The pain was there as ever, but alongside it was a flicker of resolve. Maybe this was the start of something cathartic, something healing. The letter continued, in this envelope, you will find a map. It leads to a place that held significance in my life, a small cabin I built when I was much younger. It was simple, yet it held my dreams. Inside, you'll find more about who I was and what I hid. Please go there, Jenna. Discover the man I tried to be. I need you to see my truth, not just the struggles that tarnished my life. Jenna's heartbeat raced. A map? This was the clue she had been searching for, the key to unlock the door her father had kept closed for so long. I love you, he concluded. Always remember, you are my greatest joy. The letter ended with a flourish, an echo of hope nestled in sadness, a final goodbye that was somehow still a beginning. Jenna took a moment to collect herself, the air around her buzzing with newfound purpose. She looked down at the map, her fingers tracing the worn edges, between the folds of the paper detailed notes penned in his uneven scrawl. Could it be true? Could her father's hidden life reveal something about who he was, who she was meant to be? Without thinking, she grabbed her bag and scooped up the map. The possibility of adventure mingled with overwhelming emotions. She could no longer stay stagnant, caught in the whirlwind of unresolved feelings. With determination, Jenna headed for the door, the weight of the past mingling with the thrill of discovery. There was no turning back now. What would she find waiting for her at the cabin? What truths would unravel as she learned more about the man who had loved her so deeply? The sun streamed through the window, casting a golden light behind her. Jenna took a deep breath, feeling a sense of freedom spark within. As she stepped out, she wasn't just seeking closure, she was ready to embrace the unknown. Would this journey healing, or would it unveil more shards of her father's fractured story? The drive to the cabin felt both exhilarating and frightening. Jenna's fingers gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white against the dark leather. Trees whipped past, their branches bending with the wind like spectators in her personal parade, urging her forward. She could feel the weight of Charlie's letter in the passenger seat beside her, almost pulsing with energy. Every colorful autumn leaf that fluttered down seemed to whisper secrets, promising revelations hidden just beyond the horizon. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. What kind of man had Charlie really been? The memories of her father were tinged with warmth and shadow, flashes of laughter alongside clouds of disappointment. She wanted to believe he had been more than the figure lost to addiction, more than the absence that tainted their relationship. As she reached the gravel driveway, nature enveloped her. The secluded spot felt alive with the sound of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. The cabin appeared at the end of the lane, nestled among towering pines like a secret waiting to be uncovered. It looked weathered yet inviting, the wooden structure standing tall against the elements. Just like her father, Jenna parked the car and stepped out, the cool air filling her lungs. She took a moment to survey her surroundings, letting the peace sink into her bones. The silence felt sacred, as if the woods themselves held their breath in anticipation of her arrival. With the map in hand, she approached the front door. It creaked open easily as if welcoming her back home. The inside smelled of stale wood and dust, remnants of a life once vibrant. Sunlight streamed through the small windows, illuminating the small living space. Pictures adorned the walls, snapshots capturing moments of joy that felt worlds away from the pain she had endured. She wandered, her heart racing as she traced every corner. She hoped to find tangible pieces of her father's essence, perhaps remnants of his dreams. The map led her to a small door at the back, almost hidden behind a stack of old firewood. Hesitating, Jenna placed her hand on the cold doorknob, apprehension swirling in her stomach. Inside was a small study, cluttered yet cozy. The past rushed at her like a wave, papers, books, and notes scattered about, remnants of thoughts that once filled this space. On the desk lay an old journal, its cover cracked with age. A sense of reverence engulfed her as she picked it up, rubbing her thumb across the worn leather. The first page contained a date and a phrase, "Embrace the shadows." Jenna's heart hammered in her chest. What had that meant to him? She opened to the next page and began to read his handwriting. As she did, the words poured out his struggles and triumphs, painted in deep strokes of raw, honest emotion. Each entry was a glimpse into his soul, a world she had never known. With every page she turned, Jenna felt the contours of her father's life emerge from the shadows. Stories of dreams, fears, loves, and regrets unfolded before her. She was discovering a man who had fought his demons, a father who had created a world of hope alongside his heartache. Tears slipped down her cheeks, mingling with a smile. This journey was turning out to be more than she had anticipated. She started to feel him with her, weaving through the memories, bridging the gap that had separated them for so long. But then, something caught her eye, a small envelope tucked between the pages of the journal. It bore her name, written in his distinct scrawl. Jenna's breath caught. What could it hold that might change everything once again? With trembling hands, she opened it, her heart dancing between fear and trepidation. As she read the words, the room seemed to fade away, and the world around her shrank to the size of this one envelope, hinting at yet another layer of Charlie's hidden truth. What could this final revelation mean for her journey? Would it bring the clarity she craved, or would it shatter everything she thought she understood? Jenna's eyes scanned the letter, the familiar handwriting of her father unfolding layers of emotion she never anticipated. His words were laced with an urgency that made her pulse quicken. It started with an apology, an admission of his faults, yet it quickly shifted into a love letter of sorts, a love that tangled with regret. "I'm sorry for the times I wasn't there," Charlie wrote, each word heavy with meaning. "You deserved more from me. I wrote this letter for you to find when you were ready." I want you to know I fought harder than it seemed. Sometimes the shadows took over. Her heart sank as she pondered the depth of that statement. Were the shadows of his life even more complex than she had imagined? Jenna felt an aching blend of love and sorrow, a desire to understand the man behind the addiction, the man who had shaped both her pain and her resilience. As she read on, Charlie described a secret he had never shared with her, about a hidden part of his life he found easier to hide. If you're opening this, it means I'm no longer standing in the way of your future. There's a piece of me out there, something I never could find the courage to give you. Tears streamed down her cheeks now, each word pushing her closer to an emotional precipice. There's a box in the old garage where I stored things I struggled to let go of. Inside, you'll find what I couldn't bring myself to give you in life. I hope it brings you peace. Jenna swallowed hard, her heart racing at the implication of what he was revealing. A box? What could it contain? A final gift? Or perhaps remnants of his past, items that spoke of his journey, his failures, his successes? After the last line, Jenna held her breath, enchanted by what she had just uncovered. It wasn't just a letter, it was an invitation to dig deeper into the memories of her father. This wasn't the end, it was a promise of more to come. With the journal and letter cradled against her chest, she wiped her tears, determination washing over her. Clarifying her emotions was one thing, but finding that box needed to happen now. She had come here to connect with her father and heal, and this felt like the key. Getting up, she stepped out of the study, the late afternoon sun painting the cabin in a warm golden hue. The living room was now flush with vibrant, flickering light, dancing across the old photographs. Her breath hitched slightly at the sight of them, memories frozen in time. Yet they felt more present now, as if they were urging her on, pushing through the feelings that still lingered. She made her way to the garage. The scent of mildew hung in the air, but Jenna welcomed it. It smelled of history and family. She rummaged through old tools, stacks of faded boxes, and bits of forgotten furniture, the relentless pursuit of this mystery propelling her forward. Finally, she spotted an unsightly, dusty trunk tucked away in the corner. Her heart raced as she approached it. Time seemed to freeze. Jenna knelt beside it and brushed the layer of dirt aside, revealing a tarnished lock. Would it be locked? She hoped it was unlocked, desperate to unveil the secrets within. With trembling fingers, she fumbled for the latch, praying quietly as she pulled at it. Would this box contain something that would complete her picture of Charlie? Would it deepen her understanding or provide closure for a relationship that had always felt unfinished? As she opened it, the lid creaked loudly, splitting the stillness of the garage. The interior was dark, obscuring whatever lay hidden. Jenna held her breath, her fingers hovering above the contents, her heart pounding in anticipation. What would she find waiting for her there? A glimpse of hope? An answer? Either way, she felt certain this moment was about to illuminate everything. The shadows cast by her father's complexities were beckoning, whispering that she was ready to embrace this next chapter. But as she peered into the box, she couldn't shake the fear of what revelation would come next. Would it shatter the fragile understanding she had begun to build? Jenna cleared her throat, steeling herself. Whatever was in this box could change everything again. What would it reveal about Charlie? What truth awaited her as she peeled back yet another layer from the past? Jenna's heart raced as she slowly lifted the lid of the trunk, the sound of the creaking hinges echoing through the musty air. Darkness enveloped the contents like a shroud, but she could make out the shapes of items nestled within. She reached in, her fingers brushing against something rough and textured. Pulling it out, she gasped. It was a worn leather-bound journal. The edges were frayed, the pages yellowed with age. She felt it was a treasure, heavy with the weight of her father's experiences. Carefully, she opened the journal, and the faint aroma of old paper filled her senses, a mix of nostalgia and curiosity tugging at her heartstrings. The first page revealed her father's handwriting, wild yet beautiful. It looked almost like a piece of art. "For my daughter, Jenna," it started, and her breath hitched again. This journal was a direct line to him, a bridge across the years that had kept them apart. As she flipped through the pages, snippets jumped out at her. There were tales of his childhood, stories of dreams he had chased and dreams that had crumbled. Some entries were drenched in despair, while others sang with hope. Charlie wrote about the first time he held her after she was born and the overwhelming joy mingled with fear of being a father. One entry caught her eye. I hope Jenna knows every mistake I've made was never a reflection of my love for her. Tears blurred her vision as Jenna tried to grasp the depth of those words. The more she read, the more she felt tangled in her father's journey. It was messy, just like life, but it was real, and it was hers. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a folded piece of paper tucked between the pages. Unfolding it, her heart raced once more. It was a letter addressed to her, dated the month before his death. She read it in a whisper, feeling the weight of his words as they sank into her heart. Dear Jenna, if you're reading this, that means I've finally lost my battle. I want you to know I tried. I tried to be the man you needed, to be the father you deserved. But the darkness often drowned out the love I felt for you. She pressed the letter to her chest, overwhelmed by the honesty in his vulnerability. The shadows of his struggles painted a portrait so different from the one she had held in her mind. This was a man wrestling with demons, yet illuminating moments of joyous pasts, a man who loved his daughter fiercely despite his recurring failures. With each revelation, a mixture of anger and compassion swelled within her. Why hadn't he fought harder? Why hadn't he reached out? Yet, beneath her hurt lay an understanding that this was Charlie, a flawed but loving father trying to navigate through life's complexities the best way he could. Suddenly, Jenna felt a twinge of a lesson from her father's battle. She had her own shadows to face. It dawned on her that these struggles didn't define their relationship. Instead, they made it authentic. The realization shifted something within her. As she placed the journal back into the box, a small glint caught her eye. Curiosity piqued, she shifted aside some old photos and dusty trinkets. Buried under what seemed like more remnants of Charlie's life was something that shimmered, a locket. She carefully picked it up, feeling its cool metal against her palm. What secrets did this locket hold? Did it carry memories she hadn't known existed? Jenna's pulse quickened again. She could hardly process the whirlwind of emotions as she recognized that this journey was far from over. Whatever was in this locket could either deepen her connection to her father or cast her further into uncertainty. With steely resolve, she held the locket up to the light, feeling the importance of the moment pressing down on her. What had Charlie entrusted to her? Could it finally piece together the puzzle of the father she longed to understand? As she stood in that dim garage, shadows once again lingered in her mind, dancing just out of reach, each one promising she was only beginning to uncover the truth. Would accepting the past finally allow her to heal? Jenna stood in the dim light of the garage, heart racing, fingers trembling around the locket. It was small, delicate, and yet felt monumental in this moment. What memories had it held? Could it bridge the gap between her and the father she longed to understand? With a deep breath, she gently pried it open to find two tiny photographs nestled inside. The faces staring back at her were filled with warmth. One side held a picture of a younger Charlie, radiant with youth, sharing a smile with a woman whose laughter seemed to leap from the image. On the other side, a baby stared wide-eyed at the world. It was baby Jenna, unaware of the complexities that would come to define her connection with Charlie. A wave of emotions washed over her: joy, sadness, longing. In that moment, Jenna realized that this locket wasn't just about memories, it was a testament to love despite the shadows that had lingered in their relationship. She felt the familiar swell of tears in her eyes, this time not of anger but of a bittersweet understanding. It was a gift from a father who had battled his own storm, and within it, she recognized her own struggles mirrored in his. Determination surged within her as she closed the locket and tucked it safely into her pocket. Jenna stepped back from the trunk, the realization dawning that her journey wasn't solely about finding closure with her father's past but also about understanding her own. The words of Charlie's journals echoed in her mind. Embracing the shadows meant facing her own. Taking one last glance around the garage, Jenna felt a wave of clarity. Each item here told a story, whispers of love and pain mixed together, and it was time to honor that living truth. She climbed back into her car, revving the engine and setting off toward the horizon, the sky blazing in hues of orange and pink. It felt like a farewell to old chapters and a welcoming embrace of healing new beginnings. As she drove, Jenna formulated a plan. she would continue the mission that Charlie had started to serve the community he loved. With the inheritance left for the community center, she could breathe life into his vision. She envisioned programs, workshops, and a space where others could gather, heal, and connect. Building something tangible in Charlie's name would honor the love they had shared while also incorporating the lessons learned from the shadows. The feeling of purpose ignited her, and with every passing mile, she was allowing herself to let the pain transform into strength. It was time to confront her demons, just as her father had done. Jenna imagined a future filled with laughter ringing through the community center, children running about, healing communities, and forging connections. It would be her homage to Charlie, a place where individuals could feel embraced, understood, and connected. Arriving back home, Jenna felt a sense of peace wash over her, clarity intertwining with hope. She was ready to embrace the messy, beautiful intricacies of life, and she would take each step forward with love. With the locket resting close to her heart, she took one last breath, whispering a quiet promise. "Thank you, Dad. I will carry your legacy forward." As she stepped into the soft glow of dawn at her doorstep, she knew this was only the beginning. What started as a search for answers had unfolded into an empowering journey of love, healing, and transformation. And with that, Jenna smiled brightly, ready to step into the life she was meant to lead. As you read about Jenna's transformative journey, you need to subscribe now to not miss our next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and allow these stories to reach more people. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feelings are important to us. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message of hope and healing. Together, let us uplift each other.